In this video, we're going to go through how to use the setup wizard to set up your grades in your Markbook, just like you would in Markbook or in EdSpeak gradebook. But this will allow you to record all your marks and do all your grade calculations right within Brightspace. And I think you'll see some of the advantages to that as we move forward in this video and others. So in order to access the grades, we're going to click on Course Admin, go down to Assessment and Grades. So the first thing we're going to do here is run this setup wizard, which is this little tab right here. And these are all the default options. And if we go down to the bottom, we can then click on Start. Now notice there are default options here in terms of the parameters that this course is going to be set up with. Now, if your default options aren't the same as what is seen here, what I'm showing you, that's just because they've been recently changed. And if it's an older course, you may see different ones. But if it's a newer course, you'll see the same as me. So the first step here is to choose whether you're using a graded points-based or a weighted system. Now, this is really important. So if you are using, say, TAC, and you want your categories like thinking, application, knowledge, and communication to be weighted a certain amount, then you're going to want to choose weighted. If you're doing learning goal-based assessment and you want all your learning goals, you want to be able to specify what percentage of the grade each learning goal is, then you're going to want to use weighted. If you're doing learning goal-based assessment and you want the learning goals to kind of auto-weight themselves based on how many points are in each one or how many marks are given in each learning goal, then you're going to use points. That's the system that I used to use. But I know for a lot of people, they use the weighted system. So we'll select weighted for our purposes here. And I'll come back and do another tutorial on the points and learning goal-based assessment using just the point system later on. So final grade release, do we want to release the final grade as it is, or do we want to be able to adjust it first? I would always say choosing the adjusted final grade is a safer bet just because you get to adjust it based on any professional judgment or discretion that you have before the students then see it. Grade calculations, this just means if there's an assessment where a student has not received a grade, is it automatically a 0 or is it left as like a no mark in Markbook, which would be drop ungraded items. So if you select this, drop ungraded items, it will be like a no mark, so it doesn't factor into the calculation. If you click that, it would just simply automatically put a 0 in there. So if you do select the drop ungraded items, you can always go back and put a 0 in later. But again, this might be a little bit of a safer bet, just leaving it like that and putting the zeros in later so students don't freak out when they see zeros appearing everywhere. So the grade scheme percentage just means that the students are going to see their marks as a percent. Number of decimal places to display, that's just for you, the teacher. When you're entering marks and see the grade book, you'll see 2 decimal places on all the marks. You can change that if you want. For student view display options, you can change these and you'll get used to using them as you see the gradebook more. But the grade details, just the points grade, the weighted grade, the grade scheme symbol, and grade scheme color. There's lots of cool options you can do with those so students can be able to look at their marks and you can sort through their marks a little easier. We'll talk about those later. The number of decimals displayed, this is what the student's going to see. So right now it's defaulted to 0. I know a lot of times students like to see one decimal place as well, whatever you think your students are going to prefer, whether it's rounded to the nearest whole percentage or not. And number of character displays to display for text items is just in the title, how many characters they're going to see when they look at their gradebook. Okay, so display final grade calculation to users. Do you want them to see how you calculated their final grade or not? And it's a detailed breakdown essentially. So you get to choose whether they see that or not. So we click continue and that's it. And so we're going to just look here. All our options are as we specified. We'll click finish and there we go. Now it's going to give you options to create a new category, grade item, import grades, things like that. We'll go through some of those things in a later video, but for now, we at least now have this gradebook set up. So if you go to enter grades, you can see all your students listed, and that's where we're going to begin with our next video.